She left, and suddenly your world collapsed. You couldn't breathe right. You couldn't sleep. Every minute felt like a countdown to a text that never came. You thought you were strong until silence became louder than words. But what if I told you that her leaving wasn't your downfall? It was your rebirth. This isn't just another breakup. This is your chance into becoming untouchable, into becoming the man you were supposed to be before you placed your worth in her hands. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because this will sting, this will shake you, but it will set you free. This message, it's not for every man. It's for the one who knows deep down that chasing is over, that begging is dead, that the boy in him is gone, and the man is finally ready to rise. If you've ever felt the crushing weight of being ignored, if you've replayed messages, stared at last seen for hours, scrolled through her photos hoping she'd notice, this is your time to wake up. You are not broken, you were just misled. You were taught that chasing love meant proving love. You were never taught the most dangerous truth. The more you chase, the faster she runs. Today, that ends. We're diving deep into Stoicism, raw psychology, and brutally honest truth. And if you're ready to stop being her option, comment below. No more begging. Not for me, for you, for every man who's been silently hurting. And if you want to support this channel and help this message reach another brother stuck in pain, support us. You're not just helping this channel, you're helping change lives. Number 1, neediness is weakness. You gave her everything, your time, your energy, your focus. And in return, you thought she'd give you love, loyalty, and forever. But what you didn't realize was the very act of placing her at the center of your life made her see you as someone she could walk away from. Not because she's evil, but because you handed her power that should have stayed within you. She felt your dependency, your clinginess, your loss of self the moment you turned her into your purpose. That wasn't attraction. That was emotional suffocation. And she left, not because she didn't care, but because you stopped caring about yourself. Listen closely. A man who makes a woman the core of his existence signals to her, consciously or subconsciously, that he has nothing else going for him. No mission, no path, no purpose outside of her. And while love stories in movies glorify this obsession, in reality, nothing repels desire like dependence. A woman wants to orbit your world, not become your world. She wants to see your drive, feel your momentum, and admire your focus. She wants to feel chosen, not needed. Because the moment you need her, she knows you're not leading, you're following, you're reacting to her instead of acting on your own direction. And that's when she starts pulling away. First emotionally, then physically, then permanently. You see, neediness isn't about sending a sweet text or buying her flowers. It's when your identity collapses without her attention. It's when your emotions hinge on whether she texts back or not. It's when your day is ruined because she didn't reply with a heart emoji. That isn't love, that's addiction. And the only cure is detachment through purpose. So what do? You stop making her the destination and start building the man who doesn't beg for validation. You take that obsession and you redirect it into the gym, because a strong body isn't just aesthetics, it's proof of self-respect, discipline, and control. You get under the bar, not because it makes you attractive, but because every rep rebuilds the spine you lost chasing her approval. You hit those weights until your self-worth is carved into every muscle fiber. Then you build your income, not to flex, but to buy freedom. The kind of freedom where no one, not even the most beautiful woman, can shake your foundation. You invest your time into learning, reading, leveling up your mindset, because a sharp mind makes you unshakable. You start saying no to things that drain you, to people who distract you, to women who breadcrumb you, because now you understand your life is a mission, not a playground. Every time you want to reach out, you journal instead. You write the truth. What you miss isn't her, but the comfort of not facing your own void. Then you use that discomfort to fuel your transformation. You start waking up early. You plan your day. You take walks in silence, not scrolling through her photos, but meditating on your next move. You speak less and listen more, not to others, but to the voice inside you that you've ignored for too long. That voice has been whispering, "Build yourself." Now it's screaming, "Obey it." And when loneliness hits, and it will, you don't fold. You sit with it. You don't distract yourself with other women because you're not escaping pain with pleasure. You're facing it. You're becoming the kind of man who can hold pain like iron in his hands and not let it define him. That's stoicism. That's power. That's attractive, not to women, but to your future. Because once you stop chasing what runs and start creating what lasts, your life changes in ways no relationship ever could. You get clear about your standards. You stop tolerating disrespect, no matter how pretty the face or sweet the voice. You protect your energy like it's treasure, because now you know it is. And slowly, you become magnetic. Not by trying, but by being. Because women don't want to be chased. They want to discover a man who's already whole, who already has a life so rich, so purpose-driven, that she has to earn a place in it. Not with beauty, but with value. Not with words, but with presence. That's when she starts texting you. That's when she starts watching your stories. That's when the roles reverse. Not because you played a game, but because you stopped being one. But this isn't about her anymore. This is about you. The life you've ignored, the talents you buried, the confidence you gave away. It's time to take them back. And if you're still reading this, you're ready. Ready to stop being reactive and start being intentional, to stop scrolling through her pictures and start building your empire, to stop being a passenger in your life and start driving. You cut off the distractions. You change your number if you have to. You unfollow her, not because you hate her, but because you love yourself more. You join communities that push you. You stop watching content that numbs you. You make a schedule. You stick to it. You fail. You get back up. You do it again. Because that's how you reclaim your life. One disciplined action at a time. One brutal truth at a time. One honest moment with yourself at a time. And as you do this, something amazing happens. You stop caring if she comes back. Because by then, you're so focused, so sharp, so powerful, that the version of you she knew wouldn't even recognize the man you've become. And if she does come back, you don't rush in. You evaluate, you question, you observe. Because now, you're not a boy chasing butterflies. You're a king protecting his kingdom. Neediness is weakness, because it tells the world you're not enough without someone else. Strength is self-sufficiency. It's looking in the mirror, seeing your flaws, and working on them without waiting for applause. It's being so grounded in your mission that whether she stays or leaves, you stay solid. That's the man you were born to be. That's the life waiting for you on the other side of detachment. So let her go. Let her memory fade. Let her find someone else to chase her shadow. You chase your destiny. You earn your peace. You build your legacy. And one day, when the world sees what you've become, you'll know it all started the day you stopped needing her. Number 2, obsession is self-punishment. Every time you replay that moment in your head, you carve the pain deeper. Every word she said, every look she gave, every unfinished sentence, it loops. Not because you want it to, but because it's easier than facing the void she left behind. You sit in silence and relive her walking out. You stare at photos like they hold answers. You overanalyze her last messages, searching for clues, as if the past can be rewritten through obsession. But all that does is trap you in a maze you built yourself, with no doors, just mirrors. And every reflection looks less like you and more like a man who's lost touch with his own worth. This isn't healing. This isn't growth. This is punishment. Self-imposed, silent, and relentless. You might think you're remembering love, but what you're really doing is feeding the addiction. An addiction not to her, but to the hope that you could have done something different. The belief that if you had said more, said less, called one more time, held on a little tighter, maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have left. But that maybe is poison. It kills clarity. It delays healing. And it traps you in an emotional loop where you suffer, and she doesn't even know. Because while you're sitting in your room, re-watching moments that felt like forever, she's moved on. Maybe she's hurting, maybe she's numb, but she's not trapped. You are. And the worst part, you did it to yourself. Obsession is a form of control. You can't control what she's doing now, so you try to control the past in your head. You dissect every moment like it's a crime scene, hoping to find the fingerprint that explains the loss. But the truth is, no single moment defines a relationship's end. It's the accumulation of mismatches, unspoken words, invisible shifts in energy. Things you can't reverse no matter how long you think about them. And by staying obsessed, you give all your power to someone who already chose to leave. What you're experiencing isn't just heartbreak, it's ego collapse. You built a future in your head with her at the center. You imagined birthdays, trips, mornings, anniversaries, and now that vision is gone, so you chase the ghost. Not her, but the version of you that existed in that dream. That's what makes this so painful, because without her, you feel like part of your identity vanished. And now, you're not just trying to get her back, you're trying to resurrect the man you were with her. But that version of you isn't coming back, and it shouldn't, because that man was blind to reality. That man was intoxicated by fantasy. That man was so wrapped up in emotion that he forgot to ask the most important question. Was she really right for you, or were you just desperate for someone to love you? That kind of self-honesty hurts more than any breakup. But it's the only way out. You have to stop romanticizing her. Stop putting her on a pedestal made of your own broken self-image. She wasn't your savior. She wasn't the answer. She was a mirror. And all she reflected was what you feared. Being alone, being unwanted, being forgotten. But here's where everything shifts. What if being alone wasn't a curse, but a reset? What if this pain wasn't punishment, but preparation? What if obsession was the final test, and letting go was the graduation? Because once you stop clinging to what left, you start returning to what's been waiting. Your focus, your ambition, your peace. You start reconnecting with the man who used to dream before he got lost in needing someone to fill the silence. And yes, the silence will still be there. It will echo in the halls of your mind. But one day, the silence becomes a signal, not of loss, but of potential. Because you start thinking bigger. You start asking new questions. Not, why did she leave? But, who can I become now that she's gone? You stop checking your phone every hour. You stop refreshing her profile. You start creating instead of consuming. You write your goals. You pursue your interests. You rebuild your relationships with those who truly care. And somewhere along the way, the obsession fades, not because you forced it, but because you replaced it. With meaning, with mission, with movement. And that's the truth most won't tell you. Obsession is born in stagnation. It thrives when you're idle, distracted, unaligned. But when your days are full of real pursuits, when your mind is locked into growth, there's no room for the past to dominate. You begin to see her as part of your journey, not the whole story. You remember the good, You accept the bad, but you no longer try to rewrite the script. Because now you're writing a new one where your happiness isn't dependent on someone else's presence. You stop being the man who reacts. You become the man who designs, who moves with precision, who thinks with clarity, who acts with intention. And when you reach that point, something incredible happens. You forgive her, not because she asked, not because you forgot, but because you no longer need to carry the weight. You forgive yourself too, for loving blindly, for begging, for losing control, because now you understand. Obsession wasn't love. It was fear wearing a mask. And when you remove the mask, what's left is space. Space to become, space to rise. So let the pain teach you. Let the memories fade. Let the future pull you forward harder than the past drags you back. And when the urge to spiral returns, and it will, you meet it with a different response. You breathe, you stand, you redirect. Not because it's easy, but because you're done suffering for someone who isn't suffering for you. You've punished yourself enough. Now it's time to lead yourself out, step by step, thought by thought, choice by choice, until obsession becomes just a word, and you finally become free. Number 3, she gave you space to evolve. What felt like abandonment was actually an invitation to step beyond the comfort of her presence and into the discomfort of your own silence. That silence wasn't empty. It was the purest mirror you've ever faced, and what you saw wasn't her reflection. It was your own, unfinished, undefined, undiscovered. Because for so long, you wrapped your identity around her admiration. Her validation was your compass, her praise your fuel. But when she stepped away, she didn't just leave your life. She left a crater in your self-image, a hole you were too scared to face. Until now. You thought she was your anchor, but she was actually your ceiling. She wasn't holding you down, but you weren't climbing either. You had become comfortable in the known. Your world had narrowed to shared routines, predictable texts, emotional highs and lows. It felt like connection, but it was dependency in disguise. And now, in her absence, you are forced to breathe air you haven't felt in years. The air of freedom, of responsibility, of rebirth. Because this isn't about her anymore, it's about what you've refused to see in yourself. You were made for more than reacting to someone else's energy. You were built for alignment, not attachment. And she walking away was the universe handing you back your life. She didn't take anything. She returned everything you outsourced, your attention, your drive, your dreams. And now the question is, what will you do with it? This isn't the part where you find a new distraction. This is the part where you face the work. The deep, unsexy, lonely, silent work of becoming. It's not about pretending to be okay. It's about sitting with the ache long enough to understand where it comes from. Not all pain is punishment. Some pain is preparation. And hers, it broke the illusion. The illusion that comfort was progress. The illusion that being loved meant you were whole. The illusion that if she stayed, everything would be fine. But now you know. You've seen what happens when the person you rely on chooses themselves. And now it's your turn, not in revenge, in responsibility. Because the version of you that needed her was soft in all the wrong places, untrained in discipline, unaware of potential. And now you're being handed the most important assignment of your life. Evolve or repeat. Evolve into the man who doesn't need reminders to show up for himself, who doesn't base his morning energy on her mood, who doesn't create a future around someone who hasn't even committed to staying. The man who sees space not as abandonment, but as a blank page. And for the first time, you hold the pen. No more waiting for her to write you in. No more hoping for a plot twist where she returns. You write a new chapter. One where every word is yours. It starts with self-awareness, not just of what hurt, but why it hurt. Not just that she left, but what that triggered inside you. Was it fear of being alone? Was it the collapse of your future story? Was it shame, rejection, confusion? Name it, own it. Because what you don't own owns you. And the moment you face it, you weaken its grip. Then comes self-confrontation, the discipline to stop blaming her, your childhood, your circumstances, the courage to look at the patterns you've repeated and say, that ends here. You don't need a fresh start. You need a fresh standard, one where your emotions don't dictate your discipline, one where your value isn't borrowed from someone else's presence, one where you rise, not when life is easy, but when it's empty. And finally, self-creation, not reinvention, creation, because the man you're becoming isn't a patched-up version of who you were. He's entirely new, forged in solitude, sharpened by silence, driven not by heartbreak, but by hunger. You use this space she gave you to upgrade, to rebuild, to rethink. You dive into philosophies, not because it's trendy, but because it sharpens your lens on life. You explore your mind, not to escape reality, but to redesign it. You confront the void and fill it, not with noise, but with alignment. You start surrounding yourself with people who reflect your standards, not your fears. People who remind you of what you're capable of, not what you lost. You create systems that elevate you, habits that build your character, not just your image. You break comfort with calculated discomfort, cold showers, hard truths, high goals. You show up every day, not for applause, but for alignment. And over time, you begin to feel it, the shift. You no longer crave the texts. You no longer check the old photos. You no longer play the what-ifs. Because now you're too full to chase crumbs. You're too focused to dwell in loops. You've evolved. And here's the most powerful part. She didn't do that. You did. She gave you the space, but you did the work. You faced the echoes. You lit the match. You built the fire. And that fire? It doesn't burn for revenge. It burns for rebirth. It warms you in the cold moments. It lights the path forward. It becomes the beacon others feel when they meet you. Because evolution isn't loud. It's quiet, consistent, undeniable. You walk different. You speak with weight. You look people in the eye, not to challenge, but to connect. You move with conviction, not confusion. And whether she ever sees it or not doesn't matter anymore, because the goal was never to prove her wrong. The goal was to find what's been right inside you all along. Number 4, the strongest man lets go first. Letting go isn't weakness, it's dominance in its most silent form. It's not passive, it's not giving up. It's the conscious decision to stop carrying what was never meant to stay. The world teaches you to chase, to prove, to hold on until there's nothing left. But the real power, it's in walking away before you're forced to, before your dignity is gone, before your energy is drained, before you become a shell of the man you once were, begging for someone to love the version of you that forgot how to love himself. There's nothing strong about clinging. There's nothing noble in fighting to keep someone who's already let go of you in their mind. When a woman emotionally checks out, you feel it. The way her tone shifts, the way her response is slow, the way her eyes drift when you talk. You sense it, and yet you stay. Not because you're blind, but because you're hoping. Hoping she'll come back, hoping she'll remember, hoping you'll feel again what you once did when things were good. But that hope, it's a slow death, because it keeps you stuck in potential instead of presence. The strongest man doesn't need closure. He doesn't need one last talk, one last kiss, one final explanation. He creates his own closure, not with rage, not with revenge, but with resolve. He says, if she no longer chooses me, then I no longer choose her. Not out of spite, out of self-respect, because every moment spent trying to reignite what died is a moment wasted building what could be born. You weren't made to wait in emotional purgatory. You were made to act, to choose yourself even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've learned to care for yourself more than someone who's already decided you're not their priority. It means you stop auditioning, you stop performing, you stop proving that you're enough. Because the man who knows he's enough doesn't prove. He walks, he retreats, not into sorrow, but into strategy. He knows that space isn't loss, it's leverage. It's how you reset, it's how you rebuild, it's how you realign with who you were before you made her your compass. And it doesn't matter if she comes back, because by the time she does, the man she left no longer exists. The man she took for granted is gone, replaced by someone she can't figure out, someone she can't predict, someone who doesn't orbit her anymore. She sees your silence, your focus, your evolution, and she wonders, not because of words, but because of absence. You became the mystery, not intentionally, but inevitably. That's what happens when you stop chasing and start choosing. The strongest man lets go because he knows his value isn't negotiable. It doesn't fluctuate based on how someone else feels. He's not arrogant. He's aware. Aware that peace is more powerful than presence. Aware that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Aware that holding on too long to something expired poisons everything you touch next. So he cuts it, not emotionally, systemically. He unfollows. He deletes. He creates distance, not to provoke, but to protect. He doesn't announce his departure. He doesn't explain his silence. He simply disappears into purpose. And in that space, he doesn't wait. He works. He doesn't post for attention. He builds in secret. He reconnects with his mission. He sharpens his routines. He studies. He trains. He builds networks, not for clout, but for alignment. His days are no longer dictated by who texts back. They're driven by what needs to be built. And each day he lets go a little more. Until she's not a memory, she's a lesson. Until her voice in his head fades. Until her face becomes a chapter, not the story. This isn't cold. This is controlled. Because emotional control isn't about suppression, it's about redirection. And that redirection becomes your rebirth. You speak differently. You move with intention. You stop explaining yourself. You stop chasing validation. You stop needing affirmation. You stop trying to fix what was never yours to heal. And in doing so, you evolve from a man who held on to one who commands, from a man who reacted to one who designs, from a man who hoped to one who decided. Letting go isn't something you wait to feel ready for. It's something you do because holding on is killing you. Emotionally, mentally, energetically. You're not supposed to bleed silently just to keep someone comfortable. You're not supposed to sacrifice your clarity for the chance at her attention. The strongest man understands that his time, his peace, his energy, those are sacred. And anything or anyone that drains them is cut off, not with hate, with finality. So if you're hurting right now, if you're stuck in loops, if you're hoping for that one text, that one apology, that one sign, hear this. You don't need her back. You need you back. The version of you that didn't beg. The version that walked away when respect disappeared. The version that didn't tolerate half-love, delayed replies and empty words. That man is still in you, buried under pain, yes, but waiting to be resurrected by decision. And that decision? It's this. Let go. Let her go. Let the story go. Not because you're giving up, but because you're choosing up. You're choosing elevation. You're choosing your future over your fantasy. And when you do, you'll see something incredible. You didn't lose her. You found yourself. You thought this journey was about her. It never was. It was about meeting the parts of yourself you abandoned the moment you made her your center. Now you see the truth. She was never the prize. You were. Her leaving didn't break you. It exposed what you still needed to fix. And if you're still here, listening to these words, you already know. The man you're becoming will never beg again. He walks. He builds. He remembers who he is, even when the world forgets. You don't need her to come back. You needed you to come back. And now you have. Comment, "I'm rebuilt," if this spoke to your soul. If this flipped a switch inside you. If this gave you clarity that no one else had the courage to say. And if this message shook something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Support the channel. Because every time you do, this truth reaches another man who's still in the dark. You're not just helping this channel, you're helping save someone's future.